What's up, people? Welcome back to a new video. Today we'll be learning how to make this beautiful shirt dress. Okay, I'll be showing you how to draft the pattern, transfer the pattern on the fabric, and also we'll be stitching it as well. So stick around, watch this video to the end. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. If you just stumbled on this channel for the first time, thank you so much as well. Please do not forget to put on your notification bell, like, share and comment, and also recommend my channel to your friends. So let's get started. Now with me I have my pattern paper, and also will be needing your scissors, your pencil, eraser or marker, and also the tape rule, and also you'll be needing the measurement for the dress. Okay, so first what I will do is to mark out my 3-inch overlap for the front. So you know that extension you see on the shirt, or a male or a female shirt. So I'm going to be marking that extension away from the edge of the paper. So I'm going to be using 3-inch for my overlap for the front. I'm going to go mark that from top to bottom of my paper, and here we are. I'm done marking the line. I'm just going to go ahead and mark a straight line to connect the lines from top to bottom. So now after getting that line, the next thing to do is to go ahead and place all of our measurements on the pattern. Now to begin with, on the edge of my paper, I'm going to mark a straight line at the top, and that will serve as our shoulder line. Alright, first thing first, I'm going to determine the length of my dress, and to do this I placed my tape at the shoulder line, and from there I'll run my tape down to where I want the dress to stop at. So for this dress, I want the length of this dress to be 40 inches. So I placed my tape from the shoulder line, and then I ran the tape down to where 40 inch is. I placed a mark right there. We'll place a mark right there. And next you use your ruler to draw a line across, and that will be the hemline of this dress. Alright, so now we are going to move upward, and now we're going to start placing our horizontal measurements on the paper. To begin with, we're going to start from the shoulder line. So from the shoulder line, I'm going to place my tape right there, and we're going to place the shoulder for this dress. So my shoulder is, the shoulder I'm working with here is 14 inches, and divided by 2 you have 7 inch. So I'll place a mark right there on the shoulder line, 7 inch. From that point I will come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. All right, so I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'll place a mark right there. All right, so from that point we are going to measure our bust line. Now do note that you're taking all of your measurement from the vertical line that we drew on our paper. So you're taking that, all your measurement is from the line, you're not exceeding that line. Okay, so your center front is going to be on that line. So from that point on the shoulder line, we'll be placing a mark on my bust line and my waistline as well. I'm going to take it across the paper so that we have an accurate measurement. All right, so I'll take it across the paper so that we have an accurate measurement. And now we are going to use our ruler to mark out our horizontal line. So the first line I'm going to be drawing out is the bust line, and the second line would be the waistline. Okay, so this is it. I have the bust line and the waistline. Now we've gotten this, we're going to move down to also creating the horizontal line for the hip. Now for my hip, I have the length of 25 inches. So from your shoulder line, you're going to be placing your tape there to get the point where your hip is at. And for mine is 24 inch. I will be placing a mark right there, and I'll go ahead to mark that across as well, and use my tape, my ruler, to draw out the horizontal line on the hip. So next up is to create the armhole depth, and to do that you place your tape beneath the 1 inch shoulder slope at the shoulder line, and you're going to be placing your armhole depth right there. So for this dress, the armhole depth I'll be working with is 7.5 inch. and I'll just go ahead and create a mark there. And with this, I'm going to just draw it all across my paper. You don't need your bust line in this anymore, so you can just use your chest line for this, and that's what I'll be using for this. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my bust line that I initially drew on the paper, and we're going to be working on the chest line. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to highlight the lines. Now I have my chest line there, the waistline, and also the hip line. So I just decided to highlight it so that it will be very visible, and also it will be easy for beginners to follow. So now I'm going to take my ruler to bring down the armhole depth from the shoulder. That's 1 inch that I dropped from the shoulder. I'm going to bring that down to touch the chest line. Okay, this is basically the same thing with your basic bodice pattern. It is the same thing. Now to create the shoulder slant on the shoulder, first of all you need to take the width of your neck. Okay, for this pattern the width will be taking will be 3 inches. So the width of the neckline I'll be taking will be 3 inches. So you go back up to your shoulder line, place your tape from that center line. Okay, from the line you're taking your measurement from the center front line, from that straight vertical line you're seeing on the paper. That's where you're taking your measurement from. So from there I marked 3 inches for the width of my neck, and from that point I will connect it to create the shoulder slope. You can see that, and the depth of this neckline will also be 3. So I'm using 3 by 3 for the neck width and neck depth. So I'll just go ahead and mark a point at where my 3 inch is on the horizontal line we have, on the vertical line we have on the paper, and that is it for the neck width and neck depth of this pattern. And then you just use your ruler to create the shape of neckline you want for your shirt. But usually for a shirt you just create a round neck. Now moving on, we are going to be placing all our body circumference. So on our chest line I'll place my circumference. The circumference I'm working for the bust here is 36 divided by 4. I have 9 inches. I'll be adding extra 1 inch to it because this is a shirt dress. I don't want it to be too tight. I don't want it to be fitted. So I'll mark 9 inches plus 1, that's 10 inches on my chest line right there. I just placed the mark right there for the bust circumference. Now coming down to the waistline, the waist is 30 divided by 4. I have 7.5. I'll be adding extra 2 inch for the waist because we don't want the dress to be too tight, and we want it to be very very free, and this dress doesn't have a dart on it. Now down to the waistline, to the hip line, my hip is 40 divided by 4. I have 10 inches. I'll be adding extra 2 inches to it as well for ease, and that is it for the hip. Now, so whatever you have on your hip line is what you're going to be transferring down to the hem of this dress. It's not going to be a pencil dress, it's just going to be a straight dress from the hip down. So the measurement I have on my hip is what I'll be transferring to the hem. Next up is to mark out the shape of the dress, and I'll be using this curve ruler to connect from the chest line down to the waist and down to the hip line. And from the hip we're going to be using the straight ruler to connect from the hip to the hem of the dress. So that is it for the shape of this dress, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch sewing allowance to it. 1 inch is enough for it, but you can choose to add half an inch depending on what your sewing preference is, but 1 inch is okay maximum. So I'll be adding 1 inch to it as my sewing allowance for the side of this dress. And also for the hem of the dress, I added 1.5 inch for the hemline of this dress for the folding of the bottom of the dress. So now moving up, I'm going to create the armhole for this dress, and to do that you come to your armhole line and you divide that by 2. I have 7.5 there, and dividing that by 2 I have 3.75. okay, 3.75. you get the midpoint of that line there, and you're going to go in by half an inch on this pattern, and then we take our curve ruler to create the curve for the armhole for the front. So this pattern can also be used for the back. All you need to do is to modify the back armhole and to also create the neckline for the back, and that is it. So we are not going to be drafting the back separately. We are going to be using this to cut out the back. So now I've drawn out the armhole for the front. What I'll do now is to indicate the lines that I have that's going to be visible on this paper. So where the button is going to be sitting, I'm going to just go ahead and draw out the lines. Remember when I was drafting at the beginning, I left 3-inch extra at the center line right there, and this is for the button overlap. So I'm just going to divide these lines into 3 because I have 3-inch right there. So each of them, one is going to be for the button where the button is going to be sitting, and then I have the facing and the interfacing for the shirt. I'm going to indicate the 3 lines that I have, the 3 spaces I have on my fabric, and the first one is where the button will be sitting, and the second is the facing for the button, and then the third one is the interfacing. So these are all the spaces you'll be needing on your shirt pattern. So after this, I'm going to just go ahead and cut out this pattern. You can see the 3 spaces I have there, and I indicated what each of those spaces would be. So now just go ahead and cut out the pattern, and after cutting, I'm going to indicate my annotations on it. I've added my 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the neckline and also at the shoulder as well. And also do note that you need to indicate how many you're going to be cutting on your fabric. I will indicate that on my pattern. On this pattern, I'll be cutting out 2 pieces for the front and 1 piece for the back. So I've also added the grain line as well so that it will be easier for me when I'm about to transfer this on my fabric. So this is what I have for the front and the back. I use the front to cut out the back, and the basic difference between the front and the back is just the neckline. For the back, I used 1 inch for the neckline of the back. So one last thing to do is to alter the shoulder line of the front. Now you see on a shirt, usually the shoulder seam kind of drops in front of the shirt. So the back is usually longer than the front, and to do this, to achieve that, I'm going to be cutting out 1 inch from the shoulder of my front, and then I'm going to be placing it at the back. So the front pattern is going to be 1 inch shorter at the shoulder line, and that 1 inch we're taking out is going to be added to the back. So I'll just go ahead and draw out and mark out 1 inch. Now remember that I have my 1/2 inch sewing allowance already on this pattern, so from that 1/2 inch I'm going to add another half to it to make it 1 inch. All right, so in other words, when I added 1/2 inch to the 1/2 inch that I have here, which is 1 inch, I still have my 1/2 inch sewing allowance on my pattern. I hope you understand. So I'll just go ahead and mark that out right now, and then I'll use my scissors to cut it out. And now after I've cut it out, I'll be take the piece that I've cut out, I'll place it on the shoulder line of the back, and I'll be taping it down. So that way, when you sew your garments, the shoulder is kind of coming forward. It's not really on your shoulder line. You know, I'm sure you've seen that on shirts and kaftans. Okay, so that is it. Now we just go ahead and take this and place it on the back. So you can see after we've placed it on the back, I've taped it down on the back shoulder line, and this is it, including the seam allowance. So my sewing allowance is all there. So this is what it is. Look at the front. You can see that the front is shorter. By the time you sew, this is what it's going to look like. What I just did right now, that is how the shoulder seam will fall right down to the front pattern of your shirt. We're done drafting now. We're going to be transferring this on our fabric. Now before we transfer this on our fabric, I'm going to talk about this fabric. You see this beautiful, lovely, soft fabric, I got it as a giveaway from King Dave. She's also a YouTuber on YouTube. I won this giveaway, and amazingly this came in a box from the founder of this. Their website is www.waxandwraps.com, and the box that I got a lot of other good stuffs inside. Please guys, I would like to leave their link here. I'm going to leave their Instagram link on my bio. Please go check them out. They have a whole lot of goodies, and you'll be supporting the African brand. So guys, go check them out. I got a whole lot. Thank you guys so much for sending me that amazing gift. I appreciate you. Now moving on to the video, I have cut out my fabric, and this is what it is. The green lines there is to help you to know which direction to cut. All right, so now I've cut the front and the back. This is what the front pattern looks like, all clean and beautiful. And for the overlap I have in front of the shirt pattern, I went ahead to iron an interfacing on it, okay, just to give it some form of stability. I noticed the fabric is very soft, and I needed that area to be a little bit stiff, so that is why I ironed an interfacing there. But this is very optional. You don't have to do this. And after ironing my interfacing on it, I actually used the woven interfacing. That's the one we call air stay here. And I also went ahead to iron my overlap, and here we have it guys. I did this for each piece of the front panel of my shirt pattern. So what I'll do now is to take this to the machine, and I'm going to run a stitch on the extension, that is the button overlap, on each side. I'm just going to run 2 parallel lines from top to bottom. I'm not going to be doing anything fancy for each of the piece, so I just run a line from top to bottom for each of the piece for the front. Okay, that's what I'll do. And now I've stitched them down. The button extensions that we have for the buttonhole and where the button is sitting, I've stitched them down, and they're all face down. They're all there, right there. They're not moving anymore, so I've stitched them down. Okay guys, so now we're going to be joining the front and the back. We place them right sides facing each other, and you're going to be aligning them properly at the shoulder line. Okay, so the front and the back, you're going to be placing it right side facing each other, and you're going to be joining it at the shoulder line. So you can just go ahead and use your pins to secure the edges at this point so that they don't move around. And after that, you take it to the machine and run a 1/2 inch stitch on both ends of the shoulder. So now after stitching the front and the back, this is what I have. I have also ironed it open. It's important when you stitch, you iron open your stitches so that your garment will relax properly. All right, next up we're going to be closing off the side seam of our dress, and do note that we used 1 inch sewing allowance when we were drafting out the pattern, and please ensure that you sew on that 1 inch exactly so that you have the dress the way you want it. Okay, so now I'm just going to hold the edges with my pins from the underarm down to the hem of this dress, and after securing all of the edges with pins, I will just take it to my machine, and then I'm going to sew from the underarm down to the hem of this dress. I'll do this for either sides of this dress, and do remember I said sew on the seam allowance that you left, and if you have excess you can just go trim it off. All right, so that's what I will do here. And after stitching, this is what our dress is looking like. Okay, isn't this looking beautiful already? So guys, this is what our dress looks like. I've stitched it, I've stitched the sides, and I've stitched the neckline. You can see the overlap we have there on the shoulder for the front. For the collar of this dress, we measure what my neckline is both front and back. Now, for the sake of not making this video too long, I'm going to skip the part on how to make this bishop collar, but I'm going to do a detailed video on how to make a bishop color. So please guys, bear with me. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. Okay, thank you very much. If you've not liked my video to this point, what are you waiting for? Please like and also share my video. Thank you. Now moving. So here guys, the collar is ready. I've stitched it. I used the color of the lace I used on the sleeve for the collar. All right, so now what I will do to attach this collar, I'm going to pin it all around the neckline, and then I'm just going to run a one stitch from collar to collar. That's what I'll do, from one open edge to the other. Okay, so I'll just use my pins to hold it down on the neckline, and then we're going to run a stitch on it from one point to the other. So it's time for us to attach the sleeve now, and I did a video on how to make the tiered sleeve. It's a video before this one, so I'm going to leave the link so that you can watch it and know how I was able to make the sleeve. So now I'm going to be attaching the sleeve to the garment. I'll do this for the right and for the left side, and to do this you're going to be feeding the sleeve inside the fabric, and you're going to be pinning it all around the armhole of this garment. Okay, so that's what I've done here. That's what I'm doing here. I've pinned it all around, and after pinning it, you're going to run a 1/2 inch stitch all around it to secure the sleeve and the garment. So now we're going to go ahead and fold the hemline. This is almost the last thing to do on this dress. So I'm going to go ahead and fold in my hemline. Note that I took 1.5 inch for the hemming allowance on my pattern. So that is what I will do here. I'm going to fold in 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch on the hemline of this dress, and I'm going to go and run a stitch on that. So here guys, after doing that, this is what the dress looks like, and I also have some buttons here that I'm going to be attaching to my dress. Okay, so this is the hemline of this dress. Like I said, I have gone to hem it down, and this is what it looks like, clean and beautiful. All it needs is just a little bit of ironing and everything will straighten out. Okay, so here it is guys, and also I have those cute little buttons that I got. I'm going to be attaching those buttons all from the top to where I want the buttons to stop. I'm going to be giving it a spacing of 4 inches, and I also went ahead to cut out a belt in case you just want to give it some sort of fitting at the waistline. You can go ahead and use a belt for it. So you can see what the sleeve looks like on my garment. Isn't this looking beautiful already guys? If you're going to be recreating this, please let me know in the comment section. I'd like to see what yours look like. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please do not forget to subscribe, and do not forget to recommend my channel to your friends, and please leave a comment. It's very important to me. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Remain blessed and stay positive wherever you are.